Hello and welcome. I am Mr. Murphy, and in this particular power standard we're going to be continuing where we've left off in the previous videos. In the previous videos we were looking at how to find the vertex of a parabola that was in standard form and how to find the line of symmetry. Now we looked at that by using two different methods. We looked at the first method by using by completing the square. And we also looked at a second method of doing the same thing, of finding the vertex and line of symmetry by using that little shortcut of the opposite of b divided by 2a. Now in this particular video, like I mentioned, we're going to be taking it one step further, and now we're going to figure out how to find the x-intercepts and how to find the y-intercept of an equation in standard form. Now we've talked about x-intercepts and y-intercepts in the past, so this shouldn't be anything new. The only thing different is the form the equation is going to be in. But remember, our ultimate goal for this power standard is to be able to put this all together in the end, to figure out how to find the x-intercepts, how to find the line of symmetry, how to find the vertex, and all these individual pieces, and then put them all together to be able to create a graph for the parabola. Like I said, in this video today, we're going to look at how to find those x and y-intercepts. So let's look at some things that will help us as we try to find those. If we look over here at this diagram, it's going to give us some, it helps us see and illustrate what those x-intercepts and y-intercepts are. I know it seems like it's common sense that, well, an x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis and the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. Well, it's very, very important to make sure that you know that the x-intercepts, those are coordinates. They're the coordinates where x is some number and y is 0. Similarly, the y-intercept is also a coordinate. The y-intercept is always the coordinate where x is 0 and y is some number. Because remember, if I want to find out what the x-intercept is, I can use that fact that the y value will always be 0 and use 0 in for y and solve the equation to figure out what x would be. And to find the y-intercept, I can use the fact that x is always going to be 0 for the y-intercept to put 0 in for x and solve the equation to figure out what the y value would be for the y-intercept. Remember, also we're in this particular power standard, we're looking at equations that are in standard form up above here. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And remember the quadratic formula. Remember that little jingle. X equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And if you notice my equation here, I missed that page. There we go. So it's b squared minus 4ac that goes under the radical. So, but remember, we use this quadratic formula to figure out what the x-intercepts are. The x-intercepts are the same as the roots, are the same as the zeros. But the whole purpose of using the quadratic formula is to find the x-intercepts. But remember, before you can do that, you need to make sure that the equation is in standard form, which, if you look above here, our equations in this power standard are going to be in standard form. And remember that it's got to be set equal to 0. If we replace y with 0 to find the x-intercept, we're going to be all set up to use a quadratic formula, which is what we're going to have to do then to find the x-intercepts. We're going to have to use a quadratic formula. So let's look at an example here. Here we're trying to find out what the x and y-intercepts are for this particular equation. 2x squared plus 5x minus 7. Well, like I said, in order to find the x-intercept, we're going to replace y with 0. So we're going to go ahead and do that now, and then we're going to use, after we do that, we're going to figure out what the y-intercept is by replacing x with 0, which if you notice, that's going to be really easy. But let's start out with this, with our x-intercept here. So if I replace y with 0, I can now use a quadratic formula. I know that for my quadratic formula, my value for a would be 2, my value for b would be 5, and my value for c would be negative 7. So it's going to be x equals the opposite of b, so negative 5, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 7. And it's that whole thing. Remember, it's everything divided by 2 times a. A in this case is 2. So remember, we want to do this in parts. And under the radical there, we would have 5 squared, which is 25. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 7 is a positive 56. Well, if I have 25 plus 56, I'm going to get 81, which is pretty convenient because this is going to end up being a rational number. So we'd end up with, so now we have x equaling negative 5 plus 9 divided by 4, and we'll also have negative 5 minus 9 divided by 4. So that means your x-intercepts then would be, well, negative 5 plus 9 is 4, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. So that's your first x-intercept, is where x would be 1. Negative 5 minus 9 is negative 14. Then we have to divide that by 4. Now we always want to simplify these. Negative 14 over 4 would reduce to be negative 7 over 2. So your x-intercepts then would be where x is 1, y is 0, and where x is negative 7 halves, and where y is 0. Now to find the y-intercept, that's where we replace x with 0. So your equation would be, well, 2 times 0 squared plus 5 times 0 minus 7. Well, 0 squared is 0 times 2 is 0, and 5 times 0 is 0. So we're left with your y-intercept of being negative 7, which is the coordinate where x is 0, y is negative 7. And if you notice, anytime we find out if it's in standard form, anytime we want to find what the y-intercept is, if we replace x with 0, the first two terms are going to cancel out, leaving us with just our last term. In other words, in standard form, your value for c is always your y-intercept. That would be your answer. So I want you guys to take a minute now and find the x and y-intercepts for this equation. Y equals x squared plus 8x minus 9. So pause the video and hit play when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, so let's see what you did here. You should have started out with replacing, again, y with 0 to find the x-intercept. And now we can use the quadratic formula, and my value for a in this case would be 1. My value for b would be 8. My value for c would be negative 9. So using the quadratic formula would be the opposite of b, so negative 8 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which was negative 9. And that whole thing divided by 2a, well, 2 times 1 we know will just be 2. But what you should have had then is x equals plus or minus, or x equals, sorry, negative 8 plus or minus the square root of, underneath the radical there, we'd have 8 squared, which is 64. Negative 4 times 1 is a negative 4 times negative 9 is a positive 36. Well, if you add that to 64, you get 100. So we get negative 8 plus square root of 100, which is 10, over 2. And negative 8 minus square root of 100, which is 10, all divided by 2. So my x-intercepts here would be, well, negative 8 plus 10 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. And negative 8 minus 10 is negative 18, divided by 2 is negative 9. So my x-intercepts would be the coordinate 1, 0, and negative 9, 0. My y-intercept, remember, is always going to be the value for c when it's in standard form, which is negative 9. So we can write that as when x is 0, y is going to equal negative 9. So there's your answer. Well, there you have it. That is how to find the x-intercepts and how to find the y-intercept of an equation in standard form. And you can see that it's a relatively easy process, especially to find the y-intercept. Obviously, to find the x-intercept, sometimes it'll be a little trickier, especially if your answer is not going to be a rational number, where maybe we have to simplify what's under the radical. But otherwise, like I said, it's a relatively easy process. So hopefully, after watching this video, you have a really good understanding of how to figure out how to find those x and y-intercepts. In the next video, we're going to work on putting this all together to be able to graph an equation in standard form using the vertex, using the x-intercepts and maybe even possibly the y-intercept. So with that, good luck.